with maybe more to come.
Every single race has apparently had a runner PB so far in the tournament, which is really cool.
I believe
And one race had a double PB. So like,
yeah, that was the first one today, the double PB, which was kind of crazy. And we're off to the prologue. So, Celeste, the proficient platformer. I'm assuming most of you are from SG4, but just in case someone new here, I'm gonna try to explain quickly some mechanics. So, prologue, you only have jump, climb, and grab, and of course walk. They want to be jumping as much as possible because each jump saves a little bit of time, and of course we want to go as fast as humanly possible here. So now here in the end, this bird comes down, gives us the magic power to dash, which is kind of a broken mechanic in this game, and it allows us to do a whole bunch of things really, really fast, which you're going to see coming up in the next chapter here. So this is going to be really fast, so hold your horses. So I'd be starting off with just a dash jump, a hyper jump, which is the diagonal down dash into jump. Also doing a couple of extended versions of those, which is basically just dashing for as long as possible before actually jumping. Doing some just wall bounces, which is just a dash upwards and then a jump. Lets you clear a really nice height, which is a single wall jump. And on Psyched, you just see he's doing a reverse hyper. Or he tried to do a reverse hyper in order to clear that gap, but decided to go for the safer strat instead.
Yeah, and this first chapter will go by very quickly because of all these jumps that we get to do.
So there he uses a extended hyper into a bunny hop to get even more momentum than he normally would. YP did, that is, in order to clear that entire gap, with just a dash and another dash. YP doing a little spike jump there, jumps on the very corner, doesn't actually hit the hitbox of the spike. I think Psyched's gonna do it as well.
Yeah, this chapter's normally you're supposed to use the blocks for momentum, but we just kind of skipped that.
Psyched having a bit of trouble with those neutral wall jumps. In this game, if you wall jump without holding a direction and then immediately slam the control stick into that direction, into the wall again, you can get a little bit of height with each wall jump without using stamina, so you won't just fall down randomly. So now we're in chapter 2, and we have a brand new mechanic. Do you want to go and explain that?
Yeah, sure. So in this, we have both the crystals there, which basically what they do is they refresh your jump when you hit them, even in midair, as well as your stamina. But also we have these dream blocks, which you can, as you can see, jump through them with the dash, and you'll just basically go straight through them. A mechanic that won't see much use in this version of Chapter 2 is dream block jumps, which you can jump out of a dream block to gain additional distance, similar to a wall jump. You can even hyper out of them, I believe, if you're very good.
Yeah, it's a really, really tight input. We might see YP doing it a little bit in the summit version of this. Also, maybe Psyched. I'm not sure how good he is at them, but it's a pretty hard strategy, but it's also really cool if it happens.
Yeah, and on top of that, we're seeing T switches. I don't really know what to call them properly. I forgot.
Block switches.
Yes, they will be. You have to hit all of them in a room, and they will move whatever block they are attached to. We also see the battle line clones. They are just copying the movement of the runner.
Yeah, with a 3-second delay.
Yeah, well, they delay by about 3 seconds. So it's pretty interesting to see these on either a task or with like very, very top runners like YP. They'll move much faster than were really intended.
Yeah, it looks a bit terrifying, but of course, since the runner's also going that fast, they usually know how to deal with it, especially after a couple of runs. And YP is moving really, really fast through all side. Now he's coming up to the wake section, which is just a bunch of fast movement. A couple of really precise jumps as well, in order to make sure you can keep your momentum going.
Yeah. This is probably the most technical section of the game, just because there's no gimmicks. It is just how fast can you move in a straight line with some bolts in the middle.
Yeah, you're not completely wrong there. Psyched also now in the OX section. A little bit behind YP already, but absolutely nothing that's impossible to get back from. Ooh, YP. So in this, we're now in the resort chapter. So the first big thing is there's going to be a lot of keys that we need to get to open doors to progress. And then we meet these dust bunnies, which is the cycle-based portion of this game. So all of these the dust bunnies will move on a cycle. There's a cycle for entry, there's a cycle for death in a certain room. So hopefully we won't see too many of the death cycles, I say, as YP gets a small death there.
Yes, the death cycles are different, and thus you basically have to learn all the rooms twice in theory. But obviously not really many people have, so unexpected deaths can actually be a huge problem for runners, even like top runners.
Yeah, definitely. It's not something people like actively train for because you just sort of assume they won't happen.
Right.
So, but backup stats are always important to have. So we'll see how well these players can think on the spot just in case something bad happens.
Yeah. On top of all that, the level also incorporates a lot of keys. Basically, if the keys will stay on you, they're similar to the strawberries, which you'll lose on death. You actually don't lose these on death. You'll see them intentionally reset a few times to basically go back to the start of the room with the key.
Yeah, there's one in this chapter and one in the last one. So just in a couple places, just because it's slightly faster. So YP is now in the huge mess section, which is one of the most annoying sections to try to speedrun through, just because of the amount of close quarters, tight pathways and such. So it can be quite a mess to navigate through, but YP making it look just a bit easy.
We've actually got both runners not too far away from each other, both entering the cleanup section. Essentially.
Yeah.
The movement in this room gets progressively easier, actually, which sort of in a way factors into the plot of the game, sort of.
Yeah. Let's try to not spoil though.
Yes, I won't spoil. I will avoid heavy spoilers. But the room gets progressively cleaner as you complete these, making it easier to move. The first time through that room is actually fairly difficult to get right.
Yes, definitely.
Because for the most part in the game, you actually have quite open spaces to move around in. But as you can see, this area gets more and more open.
Now, YP meets Theo real quick. We're gonna see a little more of him later in a later chapter. Just know that he exists for now.
Yeah, water is very interested in this game, and I'm not even 100% sure how it works, but it's sort of rubbery in a way.
Yeah, a little bit. It sort of tries to push you away. There's a couple of really interesting things you can do if you're a TAS. But the most important things for artillery runners is that it will refresh your dash if you dash in them, and don't try to be in them too much.
Yes,
because
it's very slow.
Unless you're TAS, it will slow you down, basically. Ooh, YP with that. Unfortunate death there, getting these coins for the lock switch. Psyched is really keeping trail pretty closely, finishing up the huge mess section. Ooh, okay. I've been getting really good at Commentator's Curse, so we'll see how that goes. We're finishing up the huge mess section now.
Yeah, these rooms are actually really hard again, because if you die or if you mess up like your movement at all, it's just suddenly a different room. Like you're basically playing a different video game. You're seeing YP did really good at getting that key and then instantly reset it, and as soon as the game registered, he had it.
So YP is about to come up on the Oshiro fight section. So during the race, we've talked to the ghost manager of Oshiro, and now we're about to sort of fight him, but we don't really have time, so we just decide to run away from him as fast as possible.
Yeah. And that's actually one of the only uses in any percent of a mechanic in this game. When you enter a screen, you actually keep your momentum going in that, like through that screen, as well as you can dash. Your dash refreshes as soon, no matter, even if you're off the ground.
Yeah.
So you'll see that a few times in the run. It's not used that much.
It is actually, especially in the later stages. Reflection has a lot of uses of momentum through screens, especially.
It's not the most important ones, for sure.
Yeah, but it's gonna be used quite a lot. So if you just see people getting dashes back randomly, it's probably because it transition screens. Because it's very useful. Might be finishing up resort there with a 5. What was that? I missed the time. 510? Was it 510?
Roughly,
I think so.
I think it's too small on my stream.
Yeah, I believe it was a 510 at least. That's a pretty solid time for. Or it's a really good time actually for resort. Coming into the Golden Ridge section, which introduces a couple new mechanics. There's these green bubbles that acts like an extra dash. There are clouds, which we saw in the first room here, which is just gives you extra height on your jumps. You can use diminishing waves later. And then there's going to be wind, which is wind, and it pushes you around, because that's what wind does.
Yeah. We also see these blocks as well, which just basically crumble. You just kind of have to know that they do. It's actually quite a lot of the secrets in the game are related to blocks being crumbleable.
Not many that we'll see here though, because this is 90%, so we just go to the end.
We don't want any berries. We want to make the worst pie.
There are a couple of rooms where we do go for like this secret strawberry path, just because it's faster.
Good
but
recovery.
it's not often, I think. Yeah, that was a really nice save by YP there. Psyched also trailing really closely behind in the Golden Ridge section now.
Golden Ridge is some people like the wind mechanic is like pretty controversial. Like some people love it and then it adds a lot, and some people really don't.
Yeah, it's definitely one
it does
of the...
make for an interesting. Oh, that's a very good momentum. So, did you mention that momentum can be transferred from objects to Madeline?
I did not, so go ahead.
Yeah. So basically, if you get if something is pushing Madeline, its momentum is actually carried through. If you dash or if you jump off of it. That's actually the main mechanic in Chapter 1, but again, because of hypers and jump dashes, we just kind of ignore that mechanic in that chapter, which is where you learn it casually. But you can use it in this chapter as well with these blocks.
So it's going to come up in the next screen here on Psyched. It's probably going to do the same obstacle skip with the added momentum from the block onto his hyper to clear a huge gap. Coming up right now. So usually we'd only be able to get about half that distance, but because of the momentum, you can get past all of it. YP is about to enter the final section here of Golden Ridge, the really harsh wind, which is basically a section where you can't really walk, you only have to dash to get forward. But since we have the tools of hyper dashes and all the versions of that, we can still go really, really fast through it.
Yeah, honestly, this is very, like, you actually move, like, maybe a pixel a second at best
Something
in this
like
section
that.
by moving.
It's basically impossible to walk through this. Trying to walk through this would probably take you longer than an entire speedrun.
Actually, you're not wrong. So
I don't think actually.
yeah, it makes it very interesting. And then the wind, we'll see later. We'll do an interesting thing. But this section is very cool. Yeah, and here the wind is now moving in the opposite direction, giving you that momentum that you can now move forward, basically push you forward.
Psyched is now also entering, or has just entered that section as well, so he's doing really, really well so far. At least when you compare their PBs, you know.
Right.
YP is in a bit of a lead though, so we'll see how the next couple of chapters go, because this is when it really starts to get tough when you die. There's going to be some really, really long rooms in the upcoming chapters here, so nothing is impossible. do you want to go ahead and talk about a bit about the mirror temple mechanics?
Yeah, so essentially whenever you dash in this temple, the blocks in this temple are going to move. There's also these red balloons or bubbles, and they are sort of like the red ones, but they will go until they hit a wall, or a spike can kill you. And you can always cancel out of them by dashing. Yes.
Yeah, sorry.
And then there's also switches. So doors are controlled by switches in this game. And just kind of a casual mechanic is there are lights that you can hit to illuminate the room. That's not really relevant to the speedrun. It is cool though.
Yeah.
This entire chapter is actually plays and is structured closer to a Metroidvania in a way, and that is more about exploring a large rooms with puzzles. And because of that, there are skips, both intended and not intended, like this one. That is one of the door skips that you can do.
Yeah, so normally there you would have to collect a key to open a door at the end to get through, but because of that little hidden secret, we can just go through without collecting that key. Saves quite a lot of time. There's another big skip coming up a little bit later, which we're going to touch upon when it gets close. So now YP is going to get into the mirror section, and he's going to play as our second enemy of the game, the lovely Seekers. Which basically try to follow you around and eat your face. And first we're going to play as them and try to eat our own faces. How that works, I'm not quite sure.
Yeah, this part doesn't make any sense, but it's cool. It's cool to do.
It's all a big metaphor, and I like it for that.
Yes. And this entire section is very weird, and it only gets weirder. Psyched is also doing fairly good on his side. He did take some deaths. Mirror temple deaths are honestly very punishing.
Yeah, they get more punishing as it goes on as well. Like the Theo deaths can be quite harsh.
The interesting thing about the Seekers is they will charge towards wherever Madeline is. They'll break these red blocks, but they'll also hit switches for you.
So you'll probably see both YP and Psyched try to manipulate these quite a lot, so that they either break certain blocks or try to get the switches for them, so they have to do less work. Yeah. Like there you saw YP hang onto the edge to get the top switch taken by the Seeker.
And here he's gonna hit that. That's not really gonna. That only saves time if you realize that it takes time for the door to activate. So here you'll see he'll get there as the thin's lowered, but if he had to go the normal way and hit that switch, he'd lose a bit of time on just the door.
So now we're coming up to Church Skip, which is the other big skip. So normally in this section you have to collect 2 keys, and it would take you about 2 to 3 minutes, but you can just reverse hyper over it, or do reverse extend hyper over it, in order to just clear that gap. It's a really, really big skip, and probably the most important to learn for speedrunners, because it saves so much time.
It's probably the only thing I'd say, learn this before you speedrun the game. Everything else will come with time, but that's kind of the required skip of the run.
Yeah, I am ready to agree.
And yeah, this is where this area gets real creepy. So Theo is a icicle like crystal.
It's just it's a crystal, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that's unfortunate. He's also very annoying because the Seekers are chasing you too. You move very slowly with him. Not as slowly as Chapter 4, but...
Yeah, but what you'll see YP and probably Psyched later doing is dashing right before they pick him up allows you to carry the momentum from the dash into when you actually carry Theo, so you don't have to walk really slowly with him. Let's see if he gets... Okay, he doesn't. You can do a cool trick there, YP kind of missed it, unfortunately. We'll see if Psyched does it instead. We'll talk about it then.
Yeah, and if you are a task, you actually just, in this room here, you literally pass through those blocks because you're moving so fast that the spikes don't actually have time to register that you're in them.
It's the task of this game is really insane.
Yes.
Yeah. Ooh,
oh, unfortunately, drop in Theo.
This last room is also pretty notorious just for it has these constant pulses that get sent out, which stops the momentum. You can dash through them, but it's kind of tight. But he finished it in a fairly good time still, I believe.
Yeah.
4:47. Yeah, that's not a bad time at all.
And
Psyched also about to
Psyched.
enter the TS section here now. Yeah. In the next room.
So one thing to keep in mind is, you may ask, why if you playing in Japanese? Well, it would save time if A, we watched cutscenes, and B, the game was the game is actually an in-game time. I don't think Japanese saves any time.
No, it really doesn't at all. He said that he just does it because he likes the font better. That's it.
Absolutely fair.
Here, YP is gonna go for Lake Skip, which is also another notorious skip. Pretty precise trick that saves about, I think, 4 to 5 seconds, maybe a bit more. Don't quote me on that. It's a pretty precise trick, but YP does it second try, like he does. And here we also get introduced to Kevin blocks, named so after the guy that made the sound for them, Kevin. And they will, whatever side you dash into, they will go instantly to the side until they hit a wall. And will be used a little later for some crazy momentum, as we saw with the air blocks in Chapter 4.
And honestly, if you play this casually, there's one block at the very start by the lake. Just push the crush block in the water. Just do it.
Right there, YP used the momentum from that Kevin block to actually break the crumble block before the crush block got there, in order to save him the crush animation as well as and having to do another dash into it. Psych now finishing up Chapter 5 with it's gonna be around a 540. Let's see how it does in this room though.
A little bit.
541.
Oh
no!
Oh,
he retried. Oh, that's so unfortunate. Oh, this Theo didn't hit the eye fast enough, so he has to retry. That is really unfortunate. Ow, that must hurt. He just still finishes it up with a 555. That's so unfortunate. My apologies.
No
So,
worries.
YP
That was... Sorry, go ahead.
YP now going is a bit into the reflection. So we haven't talked about feathers. Feathers are just a flying mechanic where you can go in whatever direction you want for a little bit of time, or until you dash out of them. And then there's also the bumpers that you can see here, which send you in the direction where you hit them, basically. And they can be quite annoying. They can also be quite helpful, as we saw a bit earlier in YP's reflection. Psyched also going for Lake Skip now. Decides that once is enough and goes for the regular route though.
Yeah, so one mechanic I don't think we mentioned are these. Oh! Unfortunate death, that's actually fairly costly. This is a large room.
Yeah.
These bumper blocks, basically, as you can see here, they bounce you in the opposite direction that you are to them. So they'll push you, basically. So unfortunate Chapter 6 deaths from YP. Another interesting fact is that this chapter is very straightforward, even casually. There aren't actually no berries in this chapter.
Nope, there are two secret collectibles, but pretty well hidden. But this section is very much about the story and how it sort of resolves. So now YP is going into the big battle and fight, where you basically have to go right into her face and punch her a bunch of times.
I think it's like 20?
20 what, sorry?
I think it's like 20 hits, right? Something close to that?
In total? I think it's more.
Oh, wow.
It takes a while. There's about, I think, 15 screens, probably more than that as well, with about 1 to 3 hits in each. You just have to go through rooms, basically, but instead of just going through them, you have to also hit that line on the way a couple of times.
Which in itself has an interesting mechanic of pushing you back slightly. It's just a very interesting movement. Okay, that was very close.
So you'll see the player, YP, mostly after getting pushed by Madeline, trying to get to the floor quickly again so that they can hyper dash or dash in any way they want, really. because there's not a lot of movement to do from up in the air where you get pushed by Madeline or Madeline. Sorry.
Yeah, most of the movement options in this game actually use either the wall or the ground itself, rather than happening in midair. They do propel you through midair, but they're not really usable. And Psyched is approaching the battle line fight. The weird hair corruption stuff section.
I think it's just technically her hair. She has ridiculously long hair for no reason. So YP now going into the second section, which is about a quarter of the entire fight. But now Battling gets really mad and decides to start moving the blocks around her. So there's going to be a lot of momentum-based mechanics coming up here. With momentum from the moving blocks, that is. Psyched is also on the way to Battling fight, not doing too badly at all, seeing as, especially with some unfortunate death from Mirror Temple. Still keeping fairly good pace with YP, actually.
Yeah, both in the battle line fight at the same time is actually not too bad. And Summit is very long. It's also in in-game time, so it's something to keep in mind.
Oh yeah, right. Thank you.
Yeah, so just even in theory, if this gets very close, we will have to wait for both runners to finish and see their prologue time before we call the winner.
Yeah, indeed.
This allows any system or any computer to basically compete with any other system or computer.
Which is really, really nice.
Yes, and Yoshi Pro has now leveled up, so we have earned a second dash, which will be used throughout the rest of Chapter 6, which is very small at this point, as well as the entirety of Chapter 7. We also did this, which is sort of like a new screen transition. It's a cinematic one where you and Battleline basically like hug each other and like launch each other up. It's very cool. Looks very neat.
Definitely. So now we're coming up on Summit, and Summit is basically a collection of all the chapters before. So we're actually going to start in the Reflection chapter, because Reflection is actually at the base of the mountain, and then working our way through chapter 1, 2, 3, etc., 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 all the way up to the actual summit of the mountain Celeste.
Yeah. So this chapter is essentially in two parts, which is the 3,000 meter climb and then the summit itself. Cycle being a little bit out of sync, had to kind of wait for Battleline to make sure that he didn't get sniped by the laser. Does a good job, and is approaching the end of the fight, I believe.
He's
approaching the end of the right.
So I think he's only like 2.5-ish minutes behind at this, which at this point is really good.
Yeah.
Especially when, like, considering the PB times difference between these two racers. It's very good for Psyched.
It's very hard to keep the top pace of like 30, 31, 32 of like the very top runners is very hard to keep in a race. So the fact that Yoshi Bro's actually doing so well is pretty cool. And Psyched, honestly, been really good pace. I'll be curious to see if Psyched can PB. His PB is a 36. I'm not sure if that's possible at this point.
Doable. It's doable. It depends on how good of a summon he can manage to pull off. But it's not without the realm of possibilities.
Okay, Yoshi Pro is at 1,000, which is now Chapter 2's summit.
So this is a pretty cool section of Dream Block sequences. It's going to be a lot of just cool movement through them. This is one of the most, in my opinion, satisfying screens to like nail, just because of the fluent movement of the Dream Blocks. And Psyched now following suit and joining YP for Summit. He is currently about 2 minutes 45 behind. It's gonna be a bit tricky for him to beat YP at this point, but it's depends on how the rest of Summit plays out for YP.
The return of the cycles here.
It is generally seen as one of the harder sections of probably the entire game, just because of at least the speed strats can be really hard to pull off. There's going to be a room coming up later with like 3 ultras in a row. YP also having a bit of trouble with these cycles here and getting a bit. He's getting kind of stuck on this one spot here. Hopefully he can. There we go. He gets through it now, and then dies in the next one instead. Ouch. Yeah, this section can be just randomly really hard for almost no reason. But getting to it. So this room, if he does it, it has a couple more ultras you can do, but he decides to take it a bit easier. As far as I know, he hasn't played this game that much recently after about SGDQ, so he's probably not that used to doing a lot of ultras and stuff. And if I recall right, using them frequently is quite a new strat. But those stats and that too actually gives Psyched a bit to catch up here. He's not too far behind. He's only about. He's now about. Is that like just 2 minutes?
Yeah, like a section. Oh, that depth although is a little unfortunate, but he's about a section apart. Okay, this is where you get the usage of like dream block jumps. I don't think we mentioned that this is the chapter that they're kind of utilized in.
Yeah,
you can even jump through the spikes. Spikes are weird in this. Spikes are weird in this game. I think it's 3 or 5 frames that you have to jump out of spikes if you're not actually moving towards them.
Not quite sure, actually. In this, if you mean in this section or the dream block section, if you go like underneath the spikes, you can't actually die from them at all.
Right.
So YP is coming up on the auto scroller skip here. Let's see if he goes for the least. You can use the momentum from this air block to just cross a whole big section of spikes. And then a wall bounce at the end. Psyched coming up on the really long rooms to 1500 as well now. Clears that first room that YP had trouble with. Seems like he's doing it just the first time. I'm interested to see if he goes for the ultras, because I know he can do it at least. So let's see. Goes for the ultras, goes super fast. Another one. Clears that room in like 2-3 seconds instead of the 15 seconds. I love that sequence so much.
Yeah, and combining like the different movement techniques with like wind and other things can lead to some very quick rooms. It's actually kind of crazy. Even a little bit of momentum, like from those slower moving blocks, will kind of push you along. They are exactly a section apart right now.
Yeah. Well, YP is 30 seconds in game time ahead, so we'll see how that plays out.
Right.
YP is now coming into Mirror Temple section, which has a whole lot of skips in almost every room. So it's gonna be cool to see here. A lot of usage of the moving blocks to get just a lot of speed everywhere. So it's one of the coolest rooms, or coolest sections in my opinion. Just a little key skip though. Does a wall jump right underneath the spikes to skip having to go down and get a red bubble. Just clears that entire tower. Just coming up in the next room, we have the infamous door skip. Let's see if YP goes for it. He's going for it. Misses door skip, unfortunately. Decides to go for the save. No, he tries to go for it again. And again, he gets the first one. Oh, just misses the door skip. But they go for it again. He goes for it. He misses it immediately. Let's move back to Psyched. Psyched is catching up quite quickly now with all these door skip deaths. Not too far behind at all anymore. And of course he also dies. Have I cursed like about 6 deaths in a matter of 30 seconds?
Yes. Also, I think, yes, YP is finally opting to not do doorstep.
Alright, he clears the room. Oh, my apologies to the runners if you're watching back.
Doorstep does a lot of damage.
I give Psyched a bit to catch up there. But he still has quite about a section ahead, so we'll see. It's looking like it's gonna be YP's race at this point. Unless he really messes up 3000, but Psyched is still on fairly good pace. He could at least get a low 37 or high 36. PvE is gonna be really tricky for him though. Yeah, go ahead, chat. Just count these numbers down. I know you love that. Ooh, misses that jump. And since he skipped that checkpoint, he actually has to go back 2 checkpoints just for that. Bit unfortunate. But now he's just blazing through these checkpoints like they're nothing. Select that's a 3720, correct? Okay. Solid. Oh, Psych just misses door skip. Tries to save it, but can't really jump that far, unfortunately. Goes for door skip again. Oh, just barely missed it again. Oh, accidentally dashes down. It gets a third death there. That's unfortunate. So YP is coming into the section with some really long rooms. These are probably the most punishing in the entire game. Not only are they fairly difficult and really long, but most of the really hard sections are in the end of these checkpoints. For example, right here where you have to collect these coins, the last little jump there can be really tight and have caused several PB losses, even just several for me even. So, but he clears it of course because he is a good runner. And then dies immediately after. I need to stop talking because I'm just cursing everyone at this point. YP now in the last 10 flags here. Psyched is really not far behind. He's currently at flag 27, I think, 26 even. I can't really see. So not that too far behind. And it's still looking like he could PV of this actually, keeping the PV streak of this tournament alive.
Yeah, this is honestly fairly close. And their PVs are quite different. So seeing them both on the final climb at the same time is very neat.
Agree there. YP is showing a bit of his rust though, since he hasn't played that much recently. Oh, goes for this risky bunny hop over checkpoint 2. If he manages to mess this up, it's gonna cost him a lot, but he just barely managed to squeeze past the last spikes. Is on the home stretch. I think we'll be seeing YP finish this race here with the first place.
Yes.
And there you go. Congratulations to YP. Winner of this race. That was a real that close. Last jump before checkpoint 1 was incredibly close. He just had barely enough stamina to make it up actually. Psyched in the end too. Forgets one of the lock switches, but has to go back for it. Oh, that's the unfortunate death. Oh, that section is such a long and painful one.
I remember this was the hard. I found this to be the hardest section for me during the climb. Was this specific checkpoint? It's just very long when you're still learning.
Yeah, absolutely. Should we see if we can get YP in here, maybe?
Yeah. Should have drawn a pin.
Let's see.
In the bot.
Psyched coming up now on the last section here. He's unfortunately missing his PV by a little bit, but nevertheless he's showing off a pretty good run here for himself.
Oh, and YP showing off the bird's nest.
2 death for Psyched right there.
Oh,
That is so unfortunate.
YP showing off the bird's nest that is in the prologue.
Below, yes.
Or sorry, the epilogue. Yeah.
And there we go. That's probably the closest race we've had so far. I think there was about a 3-minute difference, if I'm not mistaken. I don't quite remember what YP's in-game time was, but 3.5 minutes. So that's a really, really solid run from both runners here. YP a bit behind his PB, mostly because of rust, and Psyched putting up a really good race against one of the top runners of this game. So big props to both of them, and congratulations to YP for the victory there.
Yeah, and there's actually going to be another race. Like, there's basically races just all the time right now.
Yeah, there's
lots of races.
So next one is over on Speed Gaming 3, I believe.
Correct. In like 15 minutes.
Yeah, we have Revolution versus Potters. So another one of top runners going against. I'm not quite sure what Potters is actually, but Revolution is a really, really good runner. So it's going to be really fun to tune into that one.
Yeah, if you are interested in this game, make sure that you watch. Make sure that you watch these. I mean, they're very good races, and just join the Discord, the Celeste Discord. The speedrun.com page should have a link to it, and that will basically send you in the right direction. The community is very welcoming, and the game is fairly easy to learn thanks to it being segmented into chapters. It's quite easy to just pick up the file that you casually completed the game with, and practice chapter after chapter. There's always going to be chapter time.
Yeah, absolutely. There's also a lot of good. There's especially one good series of tutorials if you really want to dig deep and try to go for those PBs and those fast times. So just be sure to join the communities. The Discord is really a great place to learn more. So feel free to join if you're feeling interested. I think that's gonna about wrap it up for us. Doesn't seem like we have post-race interviews here. Actually, Psyched is in the Discord channel in the other room. Should I go grab him?
Sure.
Alright, here we go. We have Psyched here with us now.
Hello.
So that was a really solid race from you. Very well done.
Yeah, but I was extremely nervous in the beginning. I think you saw that with that.
Yeah, you had that unfortunate prologue death. That's the first one in this race, or in this tournament. So you have that. On your back.
Prologue percent, nice. Prologue death percent. Yeah, but well, I messed up the first chapter a bit and a bit on Summit, but it was a decent run, I would say.
Yeah, you managed to keep up with YP pretty well as well, so that was really cool to see. So props to you there. Let's see here. So there's going to be a change of schedule as well. The next race is actually going to stay here on Speed Gaming 1, so don't go anywhere, and it'll be the next race up here in about 10 minutes now. So it's going to be a good one there too. Psyched, anything you want to say? I think we're ready to wrap it up if you don't have anything else.
Oh, not really.
Alright. Well, it was good seeing you run. Congrats on the solid run, and I think we're ready to hop off now.
yeah, I think that they'll probably just keep the stream up with a starting soon, like next up stream. So just stay tuned. Have a wonderful day, everyone, and continue watching
ya.
these matches.
And follow the runners, of course, because we missed to say that. But do that. Have a good one. Goodbye.